Hello there my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these reversible macrame bracelets. So as you can see, we basically have 3 different rows with different colours running all the way along the bracelet, and if you then flip the bracelet around you'll find the colours are positioned in the opposite direction. And you can also choose to add beads into this design for a little bit more interest. Now if you like the pieces that I made for this video here, I do have them available in my shop for sale. You'll be able to find them in the description box down below. And that's a great way to support me as well. Now if you want to support me in a different way, you can always like, share and subscribe. And there's also a super thanks button below the video. That way I can continue making these tutorials for you. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to make this bracelet, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we'll need. Now first of all we need our cord. So I'm using a 1mm leather cord, but you can really use whatever kind and thickness of cord that you prefer, and it'll give you different looks. And I'm also using it in 2 different colours that will really help make the pattern stand out. Now to help finish off the ends of the bracelet, I'm going to use these ribbon ends that have loops in them where we can attach our findings, and in this case I'm using a lobster claw clasp and extender chain and a couple of jump rings to put it all together. And to help secure the ribbon ends in place, I'm going to use this E6000 glue that's nice and strong. So we also just need a few tools. So I've got my mini macrame board here that I'll be making my macrame on. It has these notches all the way around the edges, so it makes it nice and easy to work with the cord. I then have a couple of pliers, so chain nose and tweezer nose for the jump rings and the ribbon ends. And of course we do also need a pair of scissors so we can cut our cord. Now you'll be able to find the material list and useful links in the description box down below. Otherwise let's get it all ready and let's get started. We then need to cut some lengths of our cord, so I have 2 lengths here of about 2 meters each, and I just have 1 in each colour. These will be our working cords. And then we need 6 lengths of about 30 centimeters each, and these are going to be our holding cords. Now I just chose to make all these black because they will just basically be the background colour, but you can obviously choose to mix up the colours with these as well. So we then need to attach our cords to our macrame board here, and I'm just going to work along the long end. So I've just got the short lengths first of all, they're going to be the holding cords, and I'm just going to take 2 at a time and put those 2 in one of the 3 middle slots here on one end, and then just bring them down and put them in the opposite slot on the bottom end. Then I'm going to take another 2 lengths, put them in the next slot, and then in the equivalent one directly opposite on the bottom, and then the final 2 here will go in their own slot as well, right next to the others. So like that, and again directly opposite into the bottom one. So here we have all the holding cords in place, and we then need to place the working cords as well. So all I'm going to do is take one of them on one side, so just put it into the same slot as one of the outer groups there, and then the other one goes into the outer group on the other side, and this is just going to be our starting point. So now it's time to start our macrame, and what I'm going to do is to start with my left side. That's just what comes natural to me. So I'm going to take the end here, and then what we need to do is start weaving this length of cord between all the holding cords, but make sure you work with them as if the 2 in that same pair is just 1, and the middle ones there, the 2, are also 1. So we're not weaving between them within each group, just between the groups here. But what I'm going to do first of all is take this cord and go underneath the first pair, over the next one, so the middle one, and then under the one all the way on the other side. So I've gone under, over, under, and then I'm going to pull this through until we have a bit of a loop here on this side. Then I'm going to take the black one, and what we need to do is make sure that this comes underneath the, in my case, pink one, the one that we just brought through. So make sure it goes under that one first, and from there we need to start weaving this end through all these holding cords as well, but we just need to make sure we do it in the correct order. So it's coming underneath the pink cord, and I'm then going to go over the top of the first pair here, because as you can see the previous one went under, so we want to go over that one, but I then want to make sure I come up over the actual pink cord from the other side as well. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to lift up the middle group and then also bring this working cord that we're using now underneath that. So I'm basically going first of all underneath the other working cord, back over the top of it and over the first group, then underneath the middle group and the other working cord in the middle, and then it comes out between the 2 groups on the other side, and then bring it back over the top of that outer group and then through that loop that we left on the other side. And that has now woven all the way through to the opposite side as well. And you then just want to pull it through until we end up with both of them, something like this. Now it's time to tighten this. So you just want to start pulling this up and kind of get the holding cord sitting a bit tighter as well. We end up with something a bit like that. So that's basically the first half of our first knot. And we now just basically need to repeat the exact same thing, except we're starting from the opposite side. So before I started from the left with my pink one, but now my pink one is on the right side, and I'm still going to start with that one, so that means we're starting from the right side. And if you remember, the exact same movements, so I'm going to go under the first pair, over the middle one, and under the third one. And then just bring it all the way through. And then what I like to do is get into the routine of straight away bringing it over the working cord on the other side. That way it kind of misses out a step that we have to do and makes the whole process a little bit quicker and easier. Pull it through so we have this loop on the first side as well again. Now grab the working cord on the other side, and like I said, make sure it's coming underneath the working cord we just brought through. So if it isn't automatically, then just make sure to do that first. And then from here, I'm going to take the end and go over the top of the first pair. And then as I'm lifting up the middle pair, I'm going to go underneath that, but making sure I do it on the top side of the other working cord. And then come down and then come out between the middle and the other pair there. So the furthest away and below the pink cord. And then over the last pair to come through the loop that we left. And then just pull that all the way through. And again, we have the two cords in position now, so what we need to do is tighten it. So I just like to retighten the first one and then just tighten this up underneath that, and we end up with something that looks a bit like this. Now what I just like to do every time I make my knots here is just kind of tug at them a little bit more, just to make sure they're all nice and tight as they can get, but without pulling too hard either. And just try and keep a somewhat even tension throughout the whole piece so it gets nice and symmetrical. So that was basically the other half of our first knot. So we now have one complete one, but the one knot is basically going across three separate pairs, and we'll kind of almost have three knots sitting next to each other with how we're weaving the working cords together. Now from here straight on to the next one. So this is really the process, just repeating this over and over again, and it does kind of seem a little bit confusing with the whole under, over, but then also make sure to come above and then out below. So when I do this, I kind of like to make almost little rhymes to myself. So the first one here is easy enough. We go under, over, and under, and then also over that other working cord on the other side, just to make it a little bit quicker. But it's this cord that's a little bit more confusing, the second one. So first of all, make sure it comes under, which it already should be, the other working cord there, and then we need to go up and over to then be able to come underneath the middle group, which also then includes the other working cord, because we need to come up between the two groups of holding cords that are further away, but also underneath the other working cord. And then again we go up and over the next group here and the working cord, but then we make sure to come through it as well, and then of course pull it all the way until we can then tighten it completely. So bring that right up underneath your previous knots. So that was one half of the next one, and then for the other half we go under, over, and under, and then over again. So under, over, and pull that through until we have that loop. And then the working cord from the other side is already coming underneath. We then go up and over to come down and under. And then we go up and over again. So that's kind of the little rhymes or rhythms that I tend to end up making when I do this kind of thing, to help me remember the technique and the path that we need to make sure the cords take. And then of course, pull that tight. So just to show you again, we go under, over, and under, and over, and from there we go up and over to come down and under, and then up and over, and then through that loop. And it just helps me remember the exact path, like I said. So we end up with the result that we want here, and then just pull that tight. So that's basically what you want to keep repeating now until you have the length that you need. So now I've done the length of macrame that I need here, we can then remove it from the board. So this is where the glue comes in, because we need to add our ribbon ends here, but we want to make sure it's going to be nice and durable. So first of all, I'm just going to grab the glue And I'm just using a toothpick as an application tool. So you just get a bit of glue on there. And then I like to put it around where all the cards are coming out from, basically, before I start to cut anything off. So make sure you cover all the areas, also the ones on the side here. And you can also just go over the actual final knot there on the end, because we're going to put the ribbon end over that anyway. And also just do it on the other side. Now I'm then just going to leave that to dry for a bit before we can then go in and cut off the excess cards. And of course you also just want to repeat the same on the other end. And now that it's then dry enough here, we can then go in and cut off the excess. So I'm just going to cut off the holding cords right where they're coming out from the knots. And then also the working cords, just cut them down as well. And then from here we need to add our ribbon end onto the end of the knots. And to be able to then also do that securely, again, I'm going to grab my toothpick and then just get a bit more glue. And then I'm just going to add this inside of the ribbon end and just make sure to cover the walls on both sides here. Now we don't need to fill this up because remember the piece is going to go inside, so whatever excess glue there is going to come spilling out, but just make sure to cover both sides. And then we need to place this over the end, and then of course we need to clamp it down because right now it's still open. So I'm just going to grab my chain nose pliers and I like to put a finger on either side of it, hold it in place while I'm then gradually starting to clamp this down. Just moving slowly from side to side. And then once it's almost all the way down, I like to just double check that it's still in the middle, sitting where we want it to. And then I'm going to go in and do my final squeeze. Put some pressure on that. And I also like to just go in from the sides and close them up nicely. And then we have our ribbon end attached, and we have these loops where we can attach our findings. So of course you want to repeat the same thing on the other end as well. And once you then let the glue dry and attach your findings, your bracelet will be finished and ready to wear. So you can certainly do many different variations with this one, both with the colours but also whether you want to add beads in or not. And what's really cool about it as well is that it's actually reversible, so the colours will be opposite each other on the two sides. Now don't forget, if you like these bracelets, they will be available for sale in my shop. You can find them in the description box down below. And if you like macrame and you want to learn more different designs, I have loads on my channel, so feel free to check that out, and of course subscribe while you're there. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.